the power pocket inside a battery. The workshop was a maze of half-finished circuits and glowing screens. Kai clicked the TV remote over and over, his face falling as the screen stayed dark. Still nothing. "Are these batteries just empty of juice?" he asked, shaking the plastic remote. Amara looked up from her digital multimeter, her green glasses reflecting the blue light of the workbench. "It's not juice, Kai. It's a chemical stalemate. The potential energy inside these cells is spent. We need to swap them for fresh ones to get the electrons moving again." Kai popped the battery cover open. How does a solid little cylinder turn into a spark? Amara tapped her tablet, bringing up a 3D cutaway. A battery is a device that converts stored chemical energy into electrical energy. Inside, a reaction occurs where electrons are released at one end and pulled toward the other. This flow, the current, is what powers everything from this remote to electric cars. It's all about the movement of charges through a medium. "Humans have been curious about this for a long time," Amara said, swiping to a map of the ancient world. In 1936, researchers found clay jars in Iraq called the Baghdad Batteries. They had copper cylinders and iron rods inside. If you filled them with an acidic liquid, like vinegar or grape juice, they could produce a small voltage. While we aren't 100% sure what they were used for, they prove that the basic recipe for a battery, 2 metals and an acid, is thousands of years old. Amara scrolled to the 18th century. Then there was Luigi Galvani. In 1780, he was dissecting a frog and noticed its leg twitched when touched by 2 different metals. He thought he discovered animal electricity, believing the energy came from the frog's tissues. She chuckled. He was half right. The electricity was real, but the frog was just acting as the conductor and the electrolyte. It was a biological circuit. Alessandro Volta wasn't convinced by the animal theory, Kai noted, reading the screen. He realized the metals were the key. In 1800, he built the Voltaic pile. He stacked discs of zinc and copper, separated by cardboard soaked in salt water. This created the first steady flow of electricity. He proved that electricity could be generated chemically without any biological parts. That's why we measure electrical pressure in volts today. "So what's inside a modern one?" Kai asked. Amara pulled a large AA battery apart, safely on the screen. 3 main parts: the anode, the cathode, and the electrolyte. The anode is the negative electrode where oxidation happens. That's where electrons are lost. The cathode is the positive plus electrode where reduction happens. That's where electrons are gained. The electrolyte is the highway in between that allows ions to move, but blocks the electrons. "Let's go microscopic," Amara whispered. On the screen, atoms appeared. When the circuit is closed, a redox reaction begins. At the anode, metal atoms lose electrons and become positive ions. These ions swim through the electrolyte to reach the cathode, but the electrons can't follow them through the electrolyte. They are forced to go through the wires of our gadget to reach the cathode from the outside. That detour is what gives us power. Kai looked at the remote's metal springs. "So when I click the button, I'm closing the gate?" Amara nodded. "Exactly. A circuit needs a continuous loop. If the switch is off, the electrons stay at the anode, waiting. When you flip the switch, you provide a path of low resistance. The voltage, the push from the chemical reaction, sends the electrons racing through the remote's processor, making it send an infrared signal to the TV. "Let's make our own." Amara grabbed a lemon. They inserted a galvanized, zinc-coated nail and a copper penny. Kai connected them to a sensitive LED. "The citric acid in the lemon is our electrolyte," Kai explained. "It helps the zinc atoms at the nail lose electrons, which travel through the wire to the penny. Look, it's glowing." The tiny purple LED flickered, powered entirely by the fruit. "Why are batteries different sizes?" Kai asked, holding a tiny AAA and a chunky D cell. Amara explained. Size usually relates to capacity, measured in milliampere hours, mAh. A bigger battery has more chemical fuel, so it can provide current for a longer time. They both usually have 1.5 volts of pressure, but the D cell is like a giant water tank, while the AAA is like a small water bottle. Both pour at the same speed, but the tank lasts much longer. Kai picked up a rectangular 9-volt battery. This looks different, Amara smiled. Peel back the label of a 9 volts and you'll find 6 tiny 1.5-volt cells stacked inside. When you connect batteries in series, end to end, their voltages add up. 1.5 plus 1.5, all the way to 9. This gives enough pressure to power things like smoke detectors that need a bigger kick to start their sirens. And these little ones? Amara held up a silver coin-shaped battery. These are button cells, like the County Route 2032. The CR stands for lithium manganese dioxide. They are tiny but have a very high energy density, meaning they pack a lot of power into a small space. We use them in watches, car fobs, and even medical devices like pacemakers, because they can provide a steady voltage for years without failing. Is that why we can't charge the remote batteries? Kai asked. Amara nodded. Those are primary batteries. Their chemical reaction is a one-way street. Once the anode is oxidized and the cathode is reduced, the party is over. But secondary batteries, rechargeable ones, use different chemicals like lithium-ion or nickel metal hydride. Their reactions are reversible. When we plug them in, we use outside electricity to force the ions back to where they started. Lithium-ion is the king of rechargeables, Amara said, pointing to her phone. Inside, there's a thin plastic separator with tiny holes. It keeps the anode and cathode from touching, which would be a disaster, but lets the tiny lithium ions swim through. When you use your phone, ions move to the cathode. When you charge it, they are shoved back into the anode's carbon layers, like cars returning to a parking garage. Kai watched the ions move on the screen. So charging is like pumping water uphill? Exactly, Amara replied. You're increasing the electrical potential. By applying a higher voltage from the wall outlet than the battery's own voltage, you force the chemistry to run in reverse. It takes energy to reset the system, so it can be ready to work for you again tomorrow. But batteries don't last forever, Amara cautioned. Heat is the enemy. It causes the chemicals to break down. To keep a lithium-ion battery healthy, many experts suggest the 20 to 80 rule. Try to keep your charge between 20% and 80%. Charging to 100% or letting it hit zero puts stress on the internal structure, which can lead to dendrites, tiny metallic spikes that can eventually cause a short circuit. What happens if a battery breaks? Kai asked nervously. Amara held up a warning sign. If the anode and cathode connect directly without any load, like a bulb or motor, it's a short circuit. All the energy rushes out instantly. This creates massive heat and can even cause the battery to vent or catch fire. That's why you should never carry loose batteries in a pocket with metal coins or keys. And we can't just toss them out, Amara said, pointing to a special bin. Many batteries contain heavy metals like lead, cadmium, or mercury. If they end up in a landfill, these metals can leak into the soil and water. But if we recycle them, companies can recover up to 95% of the materials to make brand new batteries. It's a circular economy that protects the planet. What's the future? Kai asked. Amara's eyes brightened. Solid-state batteries. Instead of a liquid electrolyte, they use a solid ceramic or glass. They won't catch fire, they charge in minutes, and they can hold way more energy. This could let planes fly on electricity and help us store energy from the sun and wind for whenever we need it. The next battery revolution is just around the corner. The drone finally hummed to life, its rotors spinning with a confident whir. Kai steered it through the workshop as Amara cheered. We did it! We've officially mastered the power pocket! Kai shouted. On the wall, 2 new STEM Explorer certificates hung. marking their journey into the world of electrochemistry. They weren't just fixing a remote. They were charging up for a lifetime of discovery.